Okay, folks, here we are, game week 218. We're in the thick of the international break, and thus there's not a lot of tournaments to play in, but that's can still give us some opportunity. I have a lot to go through here. So we're not going to look at previous game week necessarily. It doesn't really apply just yet. This current one, there's not a lot to fill in, things like that. So what's most important, I'm shooting this about a day earlier than I normally do because I want to give you time to scout and purchase players, trade for players, things like that might actually help you win cards this weekend. So kind of transitioning this, I've been doing this since March or so, 6 or 7 months now, really focusing mostly on the game weeks and the cards that you do have and which tournaments you should go in. And now kind of realizing that that's hitting a sort of a bit of a stasis, if you will. And, I'm getting less and less insights to deliver to you. So instead, I need to kind of shift maybe more and start a bit earlier and maybe target some players for you to actually add to your roster for an upcoming game week. So, you're a part of the transition, if you will. Let's get into it right now. If we look briefly at the win percentage, again, this is on a Wednesday. The cutoff is late Thursday. So, or into Friday, really. So the numbers really will increase here. But just to give you a bit of comparison, U23 actually has a nice kind of payout in compared to Global All-Star. And then the Americas is really strong. I mean, there's only 172 people, 51 so far in the rare division. And in limited, it's also quite small with 219 cards being paid out, only 800 in. So, but also All-Star and U23 looking pretty decent as well. So this is definitely a weekend to not just sort of brush off if you don't have the cards. And I'm going to show you there's some really kind of cheap finds. There's ones that you can grab and make sure you hit the Ethereum threshold, as well as potentially win something, especially in limited here. I think there's a ton of opportunity for next to nothing really. So let's look at that right now. So the cards that I'm going to recommend here is under a couple parameters. So one is I wanted to go as cheap as possible, finding players that play regularly for their national team, but don't necessarily play very much for their domestic club. And the reason for that was that I figured I'd find deals. I basically find players that are going to perform really well this weekend, but could be had for quite cheap. Now, whether you're willing to purchase and spend your money on a player that might only be good and useful for a game or two during this break and then have to kind of wait for the next international break, that's up to you. But I think I found cards that are so affordable that it may be worth doing that. And then some of them, as you'll see, I've actually found ones that are still playable in typical game weeks. And so I've kind of run the gamut, tried to be as affordable and cheap as possible, but still have this kind of balance of players that are maybe a little more one and done for this break versus those that you actually could keep playing. So let's jump right in. And I've kind of gone cheapest to priciest. So first up is Andreas Andrade. So, this is a great example, like really hardly plays, not very reliable, but look how cheap he is. And when we look at, he plays for Panama. When he's played for Panama, 37 there against Mexico, but Jamaica, 95, a 72 here against Costa Rica. If we go further down, a 52. Now this was against Curacao, back-to-back, it looks like. So, maybe they'd be a pretty small side. So, of course, you'd do well, I suppose. But still, great scores there. And when you combine it with these ones here, I think a pretty reliable guy you could literally get for $7 or under $100 in the rare category. Not really playable in any other instance. But if you want to throw some money at that, I think that's a smart one. Panama play. That's right. They are playing the bottom table, Honduras, I believe. That's right. Honduras, who are winless. Panama's kind of mid-table. They're trying to catch up to the Canadians here. The top three here advanced to World Cup qualifying. So Panama's definitely in it, and thus they need a big win. And goal differential may come down to it as well. So I think they'll come out big, and I think that's a pretty, like I said, it's an affordable buy. Why not? Let's move along. Speaking of the Canadians, so they're hosting Costa Rica. I'm here in Canada in Vancouver. proud Canadian, and we're taking on Costa Rica, and we're hosting them in a city called Edmonton, which is one of the coldest of the big cities here in Canada. And I think it was done strategically, so it's going to be a cold match. It'll probably be tough for Costa Rica to weather the, the elements, so to speak. So I'm expecting Canada to come out really well in this one. And of course, they're playing super well as well. There's some really great players coming through in this era. Richie Larea, yeah, he for Toronto. So also cheap, basically similar price to Andrade there. And again, what we see is that he's pretty much a regular for Canada. Got a 61 here, a 56. Previous to that, look at that, a 100, a 44, 64. So again, can be had pretty cheaply. And what's nice is if you hang on to him into the next MLS season, he plays for Toronto, and he actually does pretty well. He had kind of a down year in a way, but he's just super reliable. He's kind of right in his prime, and kind of a bit of a veteran for them, and a steady presence. So I like him for next year. Toronto season's over. They didn't make the playoffs, so you're really just using him for this weekend and then holding him. But I feel like the price is right that you could do that and feel pretty comfortable with it. So next up, Annabelle Godoy. That's it. Sorry. So Panama as well. And so we already talked about Panama playing Honduras. So yet another player that could do well. The difference here is Nashville's actually in the playoffs. So for MLS, so they've got a couple more weeks of games potentially. So this is not somebody who you're only going to use for this international break and then nothing. You'll actually get probably pretty much the rest of the month to get a bit of usage. As you can see, his price is pretty comparable to the other two I just showed. Some nice run of form here at MLS level. And I mean, look at this here. So quite a nice player to hang on to for next season. And as you can see, capable of putting up some big scores. Obviously had some maybe more mediocre ones, but a 75 is pretty nice. And then down here, some solid 54, 51, 53. So I wouldn't be upset with that one. He's 31, so he's a bit of a veteran presence for Panama. Moving forward, Jens Stryger Larsen. Again, this 0.002, I just found a ton of them, and not really much on sale. I guess there's just maybe the one card or so, but certainly you could find some. There's only 7 rares anyways, but what I like about him, this is also an example where we see he plays for Denmark. Denmark are absolutely flying. Let's have a look here. They are, I believe, 8-0. That's at 8-0, 27 goals, 4-0 against. So really nice run thus far. I mean, really coming out of the Euro, they've been on fire. They're taking on Scotland in second. So this won't be the easiest of matches, but I mean, just look how well they're playing. And if we get back to our boy Stryger here, so again, not really usable in any sense. The benefit is that we're not talking about a player who's in a league whose season is ending like MLS. He's in Serie A, so you actually can potentially use him in some sense. We'll see. Not the most usable though, to be honest. But what I like here is maybe not the best scores here, but further down he actually did really well. So look at the 61, 60. There's a 26 there. But and then into the Euro, he had some nice games as well. So maybe a bit more of a risk. I maybe don't like this one quite as much, but he definitely is capable of some big games for club. And I think these are them there. And some big games for country. And the fact that you can still use them through the winter here. Who is next? Oh yeah, Daniel Wass. So I actually like Wass better as a Dane compared to Stryger because you're spending a little more. So now we're into about the $30 range, and a bit pricier up here for rare. But what you get is somebody who is quite playable, or at least somewhat playable. Plays for Valencia. He's a starter there, so you can continue to use him. But again, for the Danes, he's maybe not sort of middling score there, but a 61. And then further down here, you have an 83, a 74, a 71, things like that. So he's a really nice fit. And like I said, especially at the limited level, pretty affordable. Miles Robinson is definitely one I'm very interested in. arguably the MVP for the US during the Gold Cup, and maybe even this qualifying for the World Cup. He's been absolutely fantastic in MLS, so this is a player you definitely would hang on to and start next season. He's only 24, and really a pretty reasonable price at the limited level, and I'd say at the rare level as well. I think when we see what he's done for the US as well, see a 70 there, 55. I think he missed that game kind of due to yellow card accumulation. I can't quite remember, but and then here as well, 49, 68, 53. So just really, really steady, and somebody that can be relied upon. And this is just, I think, a smart buy regardless of this weekend. But and you might even be able to, broker a bit of a deal, given that maybe the owners know that MLS season's winding down, and thus wanting to just get cash in the bank. So moving along, Andreas Hanch Olsen. So again, one of these ones that's playing in a current league, so you get to use them ongoing, and so maybe comparable in price to Miles Robinson, maybe a little pricier on the rare side. But what I like is that definitely a very startable guy, somebody that you could definitely plug in into your lineups going forward. But you also get the benefit of his performance for Norway, where you see there's 66 here. Okay, 37 is not so great, but down here 58, 46, and so on. He had a nice little run there for club and country. So kind of a nice fit. And again, that person that you only 24, so you'd feel pretty comfortable keeping in your lineup ongoing. So I'd say a fair price where this is at. Norway, by the way, take on, I think it's Latvia, so should be a reasonably comfortable game for them. Hakan Kalhanoglu. So this plays for Inter, and he's a starter. And I mean, look how well he's been doing at Inter. So this is somebody that you are going to pay up a little bit more. I'm getting definitely into the pricier numbers as we see, but at the limited level, not that pricey at all. And what I like about this is, obviously, as I said, you can continue to play him in Serie A. But for club, for country, some 56, 54, down here 33, look at that, 150. So definitely somebody that can be pretty exciting, 60. So he's a bit of a regular there for Turkey. And yeah, I think the price is fairly reasonable, especially at the limited level. Adam Buxa. So here's one. This is probably one of my priciest ones. So New England are in the playoffs, the MLS playoffs. They have a bye in the first round, but I mean, he's just one of the stars of MLS, frankly. So if you're buying him, you're keeping him for next season. He's only 25, and I mean, he could get potentially transferred to Europe, and but just really nice numbers regardless, and you'll get a few weeks out of him for New England as they march through the MLS playoffs. And then for country, we see for Poland here, 32, not so great, but some 63, 65. Oh, no, sorry, that was a MLS. 33, 97, 62. So puts up some really good numbers. Again, on the pricier side, but somebody you would see as probably an investment for you heading into next season. And you still get a few games left through November. And then the last one for me is just, it's so hard to find goalkeepers of value. Really, you pretty much just have to pay up. But I thought, well, is there anyone I can find that might start this weekend that is a little on the cheaper side? And I've talked about him actually just last week, I think it was, and that's Maxime Crepeau for the Whitecaps. So he's reasonable in terms of he's under 0.03 as a limited and 0.2 as a rare, which sometimes is tough to find for those prices. And he's kind of been splitting time. I would say that he's probably the number 2 for Canada. I think Borjan was out injured, and that's why he got the 3 starts here, and he did okay. I mean, 44, 61, 37. But you see, prior to that, he was he was on the bench, and Milan Borjan was the number 1. So I expect that'll happen again this break, that he may not get any playing time, but he is somewhat in form. He's had an okay little run here, and maybe they split the games or something like that. I don't know, who knows. So not totally recommending this one, but if you're really desperate and you just want to spend as little as you can to just try and get somebody to plug in and just hope they get the start, it's a shot, I suppose. So there you are. Nice long video for you. Hopefully you tuned in. Hopefully you hit the like 1.5 speed or something so you could like zip along. I tend to ramble sometimes, but I do appreciate you following, liking, all those things. It does help me. And hopefully this helps you. Good luck this weekend. Talk soon. Bye.